I'll be removing, restuffing, and reinstalling 3 capacitors at a time so I don't lose track of where they go. Be working on these next 3. Have the next 3 caps removed. Looking back at where they were in the circuit, you can see that ground lug, just a total mess. I'll remove all those wire leads, clean it up for reinstallation. I move these 3 capacitors to the station where I remove the guts of the capacitor from the shell. And after that, we'll move on to the next station for restuffing. I'll try to capture removing one of the capacitors from the shell. Be a little bit noisy with the heat gun. See if it slides out or not. Might be stuck here. There it is. Okay, so that's the process I use for removing the capacitor from the shell. Customer wanted me to keep all the parts that I removed from the radio. So take the guts, put them into the box here. So I've moved the shells to the restuffing station. There's 2.01 microfarad capacitors and 1.05 microfarad capacitor. So I get these out of the bins here. Get the 0.05 and get 2 0.01s and get those prepared for restuffing. I put the cotton into the shell with the capacitor to keep the lead center, and again for not using too much of the hot glue when I seal them up. The reason I don't want to use much hot glue is in the future, if these need to be replaced, the capacitors I've inserted into the shell, I don't want to have the shell destroyed by trying to remove this hot glue. They should just pop right out. These next 3 capacitors have been stuffed, ready for reinstallation in the radio chassis. It's hard to tell in this video, but this lug never had solder flow around where the opening is. So I don't think any of the connections to this lug were ever had very good continuity when the radio was manufactured. This cathode resistor on the second or the first IF tube, 66 tube, seems to be the wrong value. Should be a yellow, black, brown 400 ohm resistor. This one's got some of the paint removed. I thought it might have been a 300 ohm because there's 300 ohms in other circuits. But this one measured a little over 3,000 ohms. There's some red paint under the orange paint, so I figure maybe it was a 3,000 ohm resistor, possibly. Orange, black with a red dot. But it should be at 400 ohms, so I'm going to put a resistor across it in parallel to drop it down to 400 ohms. Instead of replacing resistors that are out of tolerance and making molds and painting them, I'm going to do a parallel resistance calculation and install a parallel resistor underneath the existing dog bone resistor to get the overall equivalent resistance within tolerance, and then the new resistor will be hidden under the dog bone resistor. I've installed the parallel resistor under the existing dog bone to get the equivalent resistor of around 400 ohms. But in soldering the new resistor underneath the dog bone, all of the paint came off. I'll be painting this resistor since its equivalent is around 400 ohms. I'm going to be painting it like the other resistor over here, which is yellow body, black end, brown dot, or 400 ohms. I'll be using the Testor paint to paint this resistor. The body of the resistor is painted yellow. We'll let that dry and then paint the end black and then a brown dot in the middle. The resistor has been repainted to show 400 ohms. I found that one of the pilot light wires came disconnected from the switch here. So we'll solder that back on. For some reason in a previous repair, the leads going to the shadow meter were cut, taped off. I checked the resistance of the shadow meter and it measured 1450 ohms, so it seems to be okay. I'll reconnect it and hope the meter deflects. Been dressing the wires, bundling the wires together, tying them off with the wax cord just to make things a little bit neater. And dress some of the wires here in the RF section. Nowhere near complete yet in terms of the wire dress, but we're getting there. This newer resistor was installed during a previous repair. It's going to the plate of the 66 tube. Of course, there shouldn't be a resistor from B plus going to the plate. I think that indicates there might be an open coil, but we'll find out on further troubleshooting. All the capacitors have been restuffed and installed back in the RF and IF section of the radio. Also redress the wires. The only thing remaining is working on the IF trap. Seems to be a coil missing here, so I haven't worked on that part of the circuit yet. And I got these two capacitors here, and then one buried way under there. It's going to be hard to get to, but hopefully we can get that replaced. These twisted together wires form a very small capacitance circuit. The end of the wires were open, so I put some tar on the end. Zenith did that on later radios to seal off the ends of these twisted wire capacitors. The primary windings of the interstage transformer were way out of what they should be. One winding was almost 600 ohms. The other winding was almost 5,000 ohms. Looking at this transformer a little closer, there's a string tied that's holding some electrical tape on the windings. Looks like someone took this transformer out and tried to repair the open winding. This transformer may need to be sent off for repair. This coil is open and needs to be rewound. In the process of removing it from the radio chassis. I was hoping the break would be where the coil wire connects to the terminal, but it's not the case. So it looks like we'll have to remove the coil, count the number of turns, and rewind a new one. I really didn't make a very good diagram of what direction to wind the new coil, but this diagram makes sense to me. After unwinding the coil 5 turns, found the break. I'll continue to remove the magnet wire. Wire has been removed from the coil form. All of the turns have been identified where they go on the coil. This coil has a groove on it. That's 10 turns. And then the remaining turns butted up against each other, 19 turns to make 29 turns. Measuring the wire gauge is 34, so I'll be winding off of this spool here. Coils rewound, just need to terminate the wire onto the terminals. Electrolytic capacitors and these two paper capacitors removed from the audio section for restuffing. The center stage transformer between the 42 and 45 tubes has been removed. One of the windings is near open. One winding measures about 600 ohms. The other winding measures about 4,300 ohms. So this will be sent off to be rewound. That interstage transformer, filter capacitors, and the two paper capacitors have been removed from this side of the chassis, radio chassis. The interstage transformer mounting bracket and the end cover have been steel wooled, can't think of the term, to remove the rust. And I'll be repainting the end cover here. There's a lot of rust on the inside. I was able to remove all of that. The low boost audio transformer has an open primary winding. It needs to be removed. There's 4 nuts that hold it in. Let's see if I can get something to point with. This nut here, this nut here. Let's see, this nut here, and way over here, this nut here. That removes the cover. And then I'm assuming that this nut here and this nut here will free the transformer after unsoldering the leads. This is the low audio boost cover. That's been removed. Now to remove the transformer itself. All the leads have been disconnected from the low boost audio transformer. After removing the low audio boost transformer, I tack soldered all of the leads together that go to the transformer terminals. And just going through the wiring, doing some wire dress, came across this bare wire cathode lead going to the 42 tube. I'll just put some heat shrink on it and solder it back in place because it's going to be buried under filter capacitors, other parts, and there's a bunch of wires down there. The filament wires, the blue and the black, so it'll be kind of hidden from view. Heat shrink's been installed. Cathode lead's been resoldered to the 42 tube. Looks pretty well hidden. These two capacitors go on the secondary side of the low boost audio transformer. Again, I'll leave cussing to myself, but previous repairman tried to fix the windings on this transformer, peeling back insulation paper, trying to find a winding that was good. Use this piece of paper to show he broke loose some windings trying to find continuity. He had tape to separate all of these wire leads going to the terminals. Just a real mess. Again, this transformer is going to be sent off for rewinding.